The morning was quiet in the human colony of Kestrel 4. The sky was soft gold, the air fresh with the smell of rain from the night before. Captain Marcus was enjoying his first cup of coffee when the comms officer burst into his office. "You need to see this now," Marcus frowned, setting the cup down. The comms screen lit up with an encrypted transmission code he had never seen before: Council Omega Priority. Only the Galactic Council used that level of encryption, and only for matters too urgent or too dangerous for normal channels. Screen flickered. Alien face appeared, pale skin, silver eyes, and the ceremonial markings of a council speaker. Her voice was calm, but every word carried weight. "Captain Marcus Hale, you have been selected for a mission of utmost importance. You and your team will travel to the world of Silver and train a group of their young women for war." Marcus blinked. "You want humans? To train alien women? Why?" The speaker's expression did not change, because they are the last of their kind. The last of a warrior race that once protected their entire sector. Without them, Silver will fall. Marcus leaned back in his chair. "You've got plenty of alien military advisors. Why not send them?" The speaker's voice grew quieter. "Because no one else can prepare them for what's coming." A pause. The room seemed colder now. Marcus's instincts sharpened. "And what is coming?" The speaker hesitated, as if weighing whether to tell him. Finally, she shook her head. "You will know, soon enough. The Council will provide coordinates and transport. You have 24 hours. The transmission ended before Marcus could ask more. The comm screen went black, leaving him staring. At his own reflection, a man who had fought in 3 wars, led rescue operations on hostile worlds, and seen more death than he cared to remember. And yet, something about the speaker's tone unsettled him. Marcus's transport ship touched down on Silver. The planet was beautiful, rolling green fields under silver blue skies, great crystal mountains in the distance. But the people were different from what he expected. The alien maidens stood waiting in the courtyard of a marble fortress. They were tall, slender, and graceful, with eyes that shimmered like liquid gold. Their skin tones varied from pale lavender to deep midnight blue. Every movement seemed elegant, almost ceremonial. Marcus approached with his second-in-command, Sergeant Caravance. The leader of the Maidens, Liara, stepped forward. She bowed slightly, her voice smooth but distant. "We welcome you, Captain. We are the Shield Daughters of Silver." Marcus studied them. Not one bore scars. Not one carried the hard look of a soldier. Their robes were decorated with symbols of honor and history, but not the dirt and wear of real battle. "Let's be clear," Marcus said, his voice firm. "We're not here for a parade. We're here to turn you into warriors." One of the maidens, younger with silver hair, tilted her head. "We already are warriors." Kara chuckled. "You think you're warriors? We're going to show you what it really means." The air grew tense. The maidens stood taller, some narrowing their eyes. Liara's smile was polite, but there was steel beneath it. The first training session began that afternoon. The humans set up a course in the courtyard, climbing walls, target ranges, and combat drills. The maidens watched with curiosity, whispering among themselves. Marcus ordered his squad to demonstrate. The humans moved fast, vaulting walls, firing at moving targets, and disabling combat drones in seconds. The noise of weapons echoed off the marble walls. The maidens' whispers stopped, and their golden eyes followed every movement. Demonstration ended. Marcus called out, "Your turn." The maidens stepped forward, their movements graceful but slow. They hit some targets, missed many. They moved in perfect lines, almost like a dance, but their strikes lacked force. Marcus saw hesitation in their eyes every time the training drones charged at them. After 2 hours, the humans were sweating. The maidens looked merely confused. Kara muttered under her breath, "They're not ready for a fight, sir. They're not even ready for an argument." Marcus agreed but said nothing. That night, Marcus stood on the fortress balcony, looking out over the alien plains. Liara joined him, her expression unreadable. "You think we are weak," she said quietly. "I think you've never had to fight for your life," Marcus replied. Liara looked at the stars. Our ancestors fought. They defended Silver for centuries, but war has not touched us for generations. Marcus studied her. Then you'd better hope we can change that, because something's coming. For you? Liara turned to him sharply. What is coming? Akut shook his head. The council didn't say. But they made one thing clear. If we fail, your people are finished. For a moment, the only sound was the wind over the plains. Far out in the dark sky, beyond the planet's orbit, something moved. Just a flicker, too far for the naked eye to catch. But the humans' orbital sensors had picked it up hours earlier, a shadow in space, getting closer. Marcus didn't tell Liara, not yet, because he knew fear would come soon enough. Lessons of the Predator, the sun rose. Over Silver in a pale silver glow. In the courtyard of the fortress, the humans were already waiting. The Maidens arrived in perfect formation, their robes flowing in the early breeze. Captain Marcus didn't smile. Today we start real training, and I'm warning you, it won't be gentle. Liara, standing at the front, met his gaze. Without flinching, we are ready. Marcus stepped closer. No, you're not. But you will be. The first lesson was about predators. Marcus led the group to a long table. On it were holodice plays of different creatures, some from Earth, some from other worlds. Wolves hunting elk, lions chasing antelope, raptors diving for prey. These are predators, Marcus said. They think differently than prey. They watch. They choose the weak point. And when they strike, they do not stop until it's over. The Maidens studied the images with a mix of fascination and discomfort. One, named Sira, frowned. Why show us animals? We are not beasts. Marcus leaned on the table. Predators survive. Prey runs. When the enemy comes for you, you have a choice. Run. Or become the one they fear. Liara's golden eyes narrowed. And you believe humans are predators? Kara, standing nearby, spoke before Marcus could answer. No captain believes wrong. Humans are predators. Every instinct we have comes from a history of fighting to survive. The room grew quiet. Training moved to the combat yard. The Maidens were given light armor and blunt training weapons. Marcus ordered them to face off against human Marines in controlled sparring matches. The first fight lasted less than 30 seconds. A Marine dodged every strike, stepped inside Sierra's guard, and swept her to the ground. Too slow, Marcus called out. And you're thinking like prey, reacting to him instead of making him react to you. The next fight went better. The Maidens' moves were elegant but predictable. Humans adapted quickly, turning the fight in their favor every time. By midday, frustration was visible in the Maidens' faces. Sweat soaked their robes, their once perfect hair was tangled. This is pointless, one muttered. Marcus stepped forward, his voice sharp. Do you think the enemy will care about your pride? About your feelings? Out there, weakness gets you killed. And when you fall, so will everyone you're supposed to protect. The words stung, but Marcus saw something change in their eyes. Anger, determination, that evening. Marcus introduced a new drill. The courtyard lights were shut off. The only light came from the cold glow of the moons. Humans released training. Drones into the darkness, small, fast, and armed with stun pulses. The enemy won't always attack when you're ready, Marcus explained. Tonight, you hunt. Or you get hunted. The Maidens spread out, moving cautiously. At first, they whispered to each other, trying to stay quiet. Then the first drone struck, a sudden flash, and a stun pulse hitting a Maiden in the shoulder. She fell with a gasp. The others panicked, breaking formation. Drones zipped through the shadows, striking one after another. From the observation balcony, Marcus shook his head. They're scattered. They need to start thinking like a pack. Kara keyed her come. Shield daughters. Regroup. Don't run. Set an ambush. The Maidens gathered in the shadows, using the marble walls for cover. When a drone passed overhead, they struck together, knocking it from the air. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. After the drill, Liara approached Marcus. Humiliate us in front of your soldiers. Marcus didn't soften his tone. I'm showing you what it takes to survive. Your enemies will humiliate you worse if you're not ready. She was silent for a long moment, then said, We will. Do better tomorrow. Marcus nodded. You'll need to, because the truth was, his time was running out. Later that night, Marcus stood in the comms room, speaking quietly to the Galactic Council liaison.
Your threat is moving faster than expected, Marcus said. Sensors show multiple ships on an inbound trajectory. I need to know what we're
up against. The liaison's voice came through, cold and distant. You will know when they arrive. Keep training them, Captain. They are the key. The fortress of Sailver stood silent under the pale morning sky. The training yard was empty. The Maidens had been given a rare morning of rest. Captain Marcus was in the watchtower with Kara, scanning the planes through magnified optics. Anything, Kara asked? Marcus shook his head slowly. Not yet. But something's out there. I can feel it. In the courtyard, Liara was speaking quietly with the other Maidens. They push us hard, she said. Harder than anyone has before. I thought humans were here to teach us. But sometimes I think they're trying to break us.
Sarah
brushed the dust from her armor. Maybe breaking us is the point, so we can be rebuilt stronger. Before Liara could answer, a deep alarm echoed across the fortress. A low, pulsing sound that made every soldier freeze. Marcus's voice boomed from the tower. All personnel, defensive positions. This is not a drill. The Maidens rushed to the inner wall, their training swords still in hand. Happening? Liara shouted up to Marcus.
Your first test,
Marcus replied grimly. The enemy wants to see how you react. From the plains, shapes began to emerge from the shimmering heat. At first they looked like moving shadows. Then, as they drew closer, the Maidens saw the glint of metal armor, the crawl of insect-like limbs, and the glimmer of strange, glassy eyes. The creatures moved low to the ground, fast and deliberate. Kara stood beside Marcus. She said, testing the perimeter. Marcus nodded. Let's make sure they regret it. The humans took sniper positions along the wall. The Maidens, by Marcus's order, stayed behind the first defensive line. You watch and you learn. Marcus told them. Your weapons are useless against them right now. You'll get your chance soon enough. The first enemy scout reached the base of the wall. A human marine squeezed the trigger. The crack of the rifle echoed, and the creature collapsed in a heap. But it didn't die quietly. It let out a high-pitched, clicking scream that rolled. Across the plains, Liara shivered. What is that? Marcus didn't answer. The ground began to tremble. From the horizon, more figures appeared. Not scouts this time, larger, heavily armored. And moving fast? Marcus slammed a fist onto the railing. They're not just testing, they're probing for weakness. Captain Kara said, if they breach the gates, they won't. Marcus cut her off. Not today. The first wave hit the outer barricades like a storm. The humans fought with precision, covering fire, controlled bursts, grenades thrown at just the right time. The Maidens watched wide-eyed. Sierra whispered, they move like the predators. Marcus showed us. Always watching, always choosing the moment. Liara's hands tightened on her training blade. I want to fight. You will, Marcus said suddenly from behind them, making them jump, but not yet. Today, you learn how predators defend their territory. The fight lasted less than 20 minutes. When the last creature fell, the plains were littered with their bodies, but Marcus' frown didn't fade. They retreated too quickly, he muttered. This was just a taste. Liara stepped forward. Why didn't you let us fight? We could have helped. Marcus looked at her with hard eyes. If you had gone out there today, you'd be dead. I need you alive for what's coming next. That night, the mood in the fortress was tense. The humans cleaned their weapons. The Maidens sat together, silent for once. Finally, Liara spoke. I don't want to just watch anymore. I want to learn to fight like them. The others nodded. Even Sierra, who had doubted Marcus the most, clenched her fists. Then we have to train harder, no matter what it takes. In the shadows of the courtyard, Marcus watched them. He allowed himself the smallest of smiles. The spark was there. Now he had to turn it into fire. Far beyond the fortress, on the dark side of the planet, the enemy gathered in greater numbers. A massive insectoid commander clicked out orders to its swarm. The scouts had returned with recordings, images of human soldiers, and alien maidens. Side by side, the commander's eyes glowed with cruel amusement. "They train prey to fight," it hissed. "We will see how long they last when the true hunt begins." Back at the fortress, Marcus walked the walls under the twin moons. Kara joined him. "They're not ready," she said quietly. "They don't have to be," Marcus replied. "They just have to be ready enough by the time the real fight comes." Kara looked toward the dark horizon. "And when will that be?" Marcus's gaze didn't leave the plains. Soon, the wind carried a faint, distant sound, the same clicking scream as before. But this time, there were many more voices. Joining in, turning the maidens into soldiers the next morning, there was no gentle wake-up call. Instead, the fortress alarm blared, and the maidens were dragged from their beds by human soldiers shouting, "Armor on! Move, move, move!" Liara stumbled into the courtyard, still fastening her chest plate. Around her, the others were just as confused. Captain Marcus stood in the center, hands behind his back. "Welcome," he said calmly, "to your first real training day." The maidens expected sword drills or target practice. Instead, Marcus pointed toward the eastern gate. 10 kilometers that way is a river. You will reach it, cross it, and return here before nightfall. You will carry full packs, wear full armor, and you will be hunted the entire way. Hunted, Sira repeated. Marcus gave a thin smile. "By my best soldiers. If they catch you, you're out. And if you're out, you fail the day." The maidens exchanged uneasy looks, but before they could protest, Marcus clapped his hands. "Go." They ran. The packs were heavy, the armor hotter than they'd expected. Humans had added stones to their packs without telling them. Within minutes, the first signs of trouble appeared. A human soldier, camouflaged in brush, leapt from hiding and tackled one of the maidens. She fought back, but he was faster, pinning her easily. "You're out," he said simply, and she had to walk back to the fortress in shame. Liara pushed herself harder. She heard the sounds of pursuit behind her human footsteps, deliberate and unhurried, like a predator stalking its prey. She remembered Marcus's words. Predators don't rush. They wait for the right moment. When the footsteps grew louder, she dove into a ditch, holding her breath. The soldier passed by, unaware. A spark of pride lit in her chest. "Maybe I can do this." By midday, only half the maidens were still in the challenge. Sweat poured down their faces, and their legs ached from the weight of the packs. Next. Reached the river, they thought they had a moment to rest. They were wrong. From the trees across the water, paintball rounds began snapping past their heads. The maidens ducked, yelping as bright red marks exploded on armor and skin. The humans on the far bank laughed. "Move!" Liara shouted. "If we stay here, they'll pick us off." They splashed into the water. Current was stronger. Then it looked, dragging at their legs. Sira nearly lost her pack, but Liara grabbed her and hauled her through. By the time they reached the other side, they were exhausted, but they had no choice except to keep moving. In the shadows of the forest, more humans waited. This time, they didn't attack with paintballs. They used traps. One maiden stepped into a snare and was yanked upside down, screaming. Liara cut her down quickly, but the moment cost them. Another soldier caught the girl as she landed. "Out!" As the sun began to set, only 3 maidens remained. Liara, Sira, armor. Their armor was scratched, their packs torn, but they pressed on. When they reached the fortress gates, Marcus was waiting. He didn't smile. "You're alive," he said simply. "Barely, and you're still slow." Sira glared. "Slow. We were hunted all day and still made it back." Marcus stepped closer, his voice low. "The enemy won't hunt you for sport. They'll hunt you to kill. They won't stop after." A day, this was just the beginning. That night, the surviving maidens could barely eat from exhaustion. But as they sat together, Kale said quietly, I understand now. This isn't about strength. It's about thinking like them. It's like humans. Liara nodded slowly. Predators don't just fight. They plan, they trick, they strike. When it matters, Sira smirked. Then let's learn to strike first. In the command room, Marcus and Kara reviewed drone footage of the day's challenge. They're improving, Kara admitted. Marcus nodded. They have fire in them. But fire without control is useless. Tomorrow we take the next step? What's that? Marcus's eyes didn't leave the screen, teaching them how to kill. Far away, the enemy swarm was on the move again. Their commander had seen the same drone footage stolen through a spy hidden in the Council's network. It watched. The human training methods, with cold amusement, as they teach prey to hunt, it clicked. Let them. It will make the slaughter more interesting. The next morning was different. There were no running drills, no heavy packs, no fake hunts. Instead, the Maidens were led into the fortress armory. Racks of weapons lined the walls, sleek human rifles, blades forged from alien alloys, crates of ammunition and strange devices humming softly. Captain Marcus stood at the center, his expression colder than usual. Until now, he began, we've been teaching you how to survive. But survival means nothing if you can't end the fight today. You learn to kill. The Maidens shifted uncomfortably. Their people had rules. Even in war, killing was a last resort. Marcus seemed to read their thoughts. The enemy you're going to face doesn't care about honor. They don't take prisoners. They don't show mercy. The only way to protect your world is to make sure they can never touch it again. He motioned to Kara. She stepped forward and opened a case. Inside were compact human pulse rifles. These are yours now, Marcus said. Treat them like an extension of your arm. If you drop them, if you lose them, you may as well be dead. The first exercise was simple. Hit the target. Simple, but not easy. The humans set up moving dummies, each one darting unpredictably. The Maidens' shots went wide, their hands shaking from the weapon's recoil. Liara missed 3 times in a row. Marcus walked up behind her, placed his hands on her shoulders, and adjusted her stance. Stop aiming with your eyes, he said. Aim with your mind. See where the target will be, not where it is now. She took a breath, squeezed the trigger, and the dummy's head exploded in a flash of light. Her heart jumped. She had never felt power like this. After hours of drills, the Maidens moved to close combat training. The humans had prepared humanoid drones, programmed to fight back. You will get hit, Kara warned. But remember, pain is a teacher. Don't waste the lesson. The first few bouts were a disaster. The drones knocked the Maidens down, again and again. Sira's lip bled. Kale's arm ached from blocking too many strikes, and Liara could feel a bruise forming across her ribs. But slowly, something shifted. It began to anticipate the drone's attacks, turning defense into counterattack. Liara ducked under a strike and slammed her blade into the drone's side, disabling it instantly. When the final drone fell, Marcus called them together. You're improving? But tomorrow. He looked at them each in the eyes. Tomorrow, you fight something alive. The room went silent. That night, Liara couldn't sleep. Walked to the fortress wall, staring into the dark horizon. Somewhere out there, the threat was coming closer. She didn't know what it looked like. She didn't know what it wanted. But she knew Marcus was right. This wasn't about honor. It was about survival. She clenched her fists. If I must kill to protect my people, then I will. At dawn, Marcus led them beyond the fortress into a walled arena. A low growl echoed from the shadows. A heavy gate rose, and something emerged, a creature unlike anything the Maidens had seen. 6-legged, armored in bone-like plates, with jaws that could crush stone. This is a scarhound, Marcus said. The enemy uses them for hunting and war. If you hesitate, it will rip you apart. The Maidens froze. Marcus threw a spear. At their feet, pick it up. One of you kills it, or it kills all of you. The scarhound lunged. Kale dove aside. Sira swung her blade but missed. The creature's tail whipped, knocking her down. Liara grabbed the spear, her pulse racing. The Scarhound turned toward her, snarling. She waited. It charged. At the last second, she sidestepped and drove the spear into its neck. The creature thrashed, but she held on, twisting until it went still. When she pulled the spear free, her hands were trembling, but not from fear. Marcus stepped forward, looking at her with something almost like pride. "Now," he said quietly, "you ready for the next lesson?" Far above the planet, in the cold dark of space, the enemy fleet prepared for jump. Their commander's claws tapped the console. "Begin the invasion. Let us see what the humans have built. If you want, I can now write Part 6, The Enemy Arrives, where the full-scale war finally begins and the Maidens face the nightmare Marcus has been preparing them for. The enemy arrives, the warning came at dawn. Marcus was in the command room. When the fortress alarms screamed to life, red lights pulsed on every wall. Voice crackled through the comms. Enemy fleet detected. 30 ships. Inbound. Estimated arrival, 1 hour. The room fell silent for a heartbeat, then exploded into motion. Marcus turned to Kara. "Get the Maidens to the war deck. This is it." On the fortress training grounds, the alien Maidens stood in full armor for the first time. Human-forged plating covered their chests and shoulders. Rifles hung at their sides, blades strapped across their backs. Liara felt the weight of the armor, but also its protection. She looked at the others, Kale, Sira, Gentha, and saw no fear in their faces. Marcus arrived, his expression unreadable. "This is not a drill," he said. "The enemy will not give you time to think. So don't think, act. Use everything you've learned. And remember," paused, letting his eyes meet each of. "You are not prey anymore." The sky above them tore open with streaks of light, enemy landing craft punching through the atmosphere. The first explosions shook the ground before the ships even touched down. From the east wall, Liara saw them, black armored warriors spilling from the craft, moving in perfect formation. Behind them, massive Scarhounds bounded forward, snarling. Kara's voice rang out over the positions. "Wait for my mark. Fire." The fortress erupted with gunfire. Pulse rifles roared, cutting through the first wave of enemies. The Maidens fought side by side with human soldiers, their shots precise, their movements sharp. A Scarhound leapt for Kale, but she pivoted, driving her blade deep into its chest before it could touch her. Marcus watched from the wall, his voice calm over the comms, could keep them off the gates. But the enemy didn't break. They pressed harder, their numbers endless. A deep horn sounded from the enemy lines. From the smoke emerged something, far larger, a towering war beast, its hide thick as metal, carrying an armored platform with enemy gunners on its back. Liara's breath caught. "How do we stop that?" Marcus's voice came back, sharp and certain.
You don't. We
"Do it together, Maidens with me." They broke from the wall, sprinting across the battlefield under a rain of enemy fire. Marcus moved like a shadow, his rifle snapping precise shots at any soldier who dared aim at them. The beast roared, stomping forward, crushing soldiers both human and alien under its massive feet. Marcus pointed to its legs. "Bring it down." The Maidens unleashed their fire on the creature's joints. Liara sprinted in close, leaping onto its leg and driving her blade into the gap between its armor plates. The beast stumbled, just enough for Marcus to throw a satchel charge under its belly. "Down," he shouted. The explosion ripped through the air, and the war beast collapsed with a deafening crash, throwing enemy soldiers into chaos. There was no time to celebrate. Shadow fell over the battlefield. A second wave of enemy ships, descending directly toward the fortress. "Fall back to the gates," Kara's voice ordered. "If they breach, we lose the city." The retreat was brutal. Enemies closed in from every side. Sira was knocked down, pinned under a snarling Scarhound, but Liara dragged her free, shooting the beast point blank. They reached the gates just as the enemy's siege weapons fired. The walls shuddered. Marcus looked at the Maidens, his face grim. "This is where we hold them, no matter what." The battle turned into a blur. Gunfire, smoke, screams. The maidens fought like the warriors they were trained to be.
Yes.
Every lesson, every bruise, every moment of fear they had endured now became a weapon. Kale's blade flashed, Syrah's rifle sang, Liara moved with deadly precision.
The humans
Fought alongside them, shoulder to shoulder, until the ground was slick with dust and blood. Finally, the enemy broke. What was left of their forces retreated toward the burning landing craft. Above, the enemy fleet began to pull away. The fortress stood. As the sun rose over the smoking battlefield, Marcus gathered the maidens. We're bloodied, bruised, and exhausted, but alive. You did it. He said simply, you fought and you won. And now the galaxy will never see you as prey again. Liara looked out at the field of wreckage, at the enemy corpses, at the human soldiers who had fought and fallen beside them. She knew the war wasn't over, but something inside her had changed forever. They had been maidens once. Now they were warriors. Far away, in a dark war chamber, the enemy commander studied the battle report. They fight like predators, he growled. But worse. They teach others to fight the same way. His claws clenched. This is not the end. It is only the beginning.